Hello, welcome all of you to the fourth edition of Better Your English. So, in the fourth edition, Module 1, I draw your attention to the confusing use of the word medium in its plural form and singular form as well. Medium is used generally in British English as a singular word. But in the 20th century, we find that medium is a word which has been totally transformed by the influence of the newspapers, television channels, the social communication channels, the internet channels. All these have completely taken over this word, and this word has assumed different forms. And today we have the most popular word, mass media. Now, when you look at the brief history of this word, medium means today a vehicle or channel of communication. A vehicle or a vehicle, though we say vehicle, the exact pronunciation is vehicle. A vehicle or channel of communication. But actually, we understand that this word medium is closely associated with the domain of painting. In fact, painting is done, or the expressions, the modes of expression in painting are done through the medium of charcoal, through the medium of watercolor, or through the medium of acrylic, or through the medium of oil paint. But today, the word mediums is sometimes very rare, but it is in certain ways unacceptable, and it is in certain ways acceptable. But in British English, generally the word mediums is a deviation from its Latin root. And mediums is used in connection with the possibility of somebody speaking to the spirits, somebody speaking to the dead people, to the ghosts. That only in that context we have in British English the word mediums as a word. Somebody is speaking through the mediums to the spirits. But let us forget that for the moment and focus upon media. Media is used as a plural word and also as a singular word. Now there is a very big question: which is more acceptable? Both are acceptable. That is the conclusion that I am going to give you. So don't have any confusion. But generally speaking, in carefully written English, carefully written grammatical English, you have mass media are. It's used more as a plural noun, not as mass media is. In journalistic prose, they usually use media is. But in careful copybook kind of writing, we are supposed to use media are. But generally, we don't use medias. Malayalam, the users of Malayalam or the Malayalam speakers, they sometimes use the word medias. I think medias is not so very acceptable. It is more unacceptable. So let us not use the word medias, but we can use media are or media is. Both are acceptable. Media is a word which got a wider parlance, a wider range of meaning in the 1950s, because it became a sort of byword for mass media associated with newspapers and other modes of popular communication. But going by the use of the word media, when you examine whether it could be used as a singular word or a plural word, 80% of the examples are giving the indication that we cannot correctly determine whether media is a singular word or a plural word or a collective noun. So both singular and media is used as a singular word as well as a plural word. Both are acceptable. And you look at some of the popular phrases. Media coverage. For example, you say media coverage is very impressive for this political event. Then we say media event. Media event was quite noticeable. Or otherwise we say media industry is on the rise in contemporary times. Media supports plural as well as singular usages. In English, mediums also is used. Now today, when you talk about different modes of painting, you can say acrylic mediums, water-based painting mediums, mediums of children's literature, or sometimes even mediums of exchange. Now, coming to module 2 of the 4th edition, we will examine the use of the abbreviation, the short form BC, before Christ. Sometimes it is used as BC, and at certain other times it is used as BCE. BC is expanded as before Christ, and BCE is expanded as before the common era. Now when you say before Christ, it has a Christian connotation, because the Western calendar or the Western dating system is based on the birth of Christ, and it is related to the period before Christ and also the period after the birth of Christ, which is known as Anno Domini, Anno Domini. We'll come to Anno Domini in the next segment. Now, the dating system has a religious foundation, and BC was coined in the 18th century. It became very popular in the 18th century. In fact, it is just the opposite of Anno Domini, or we can say it is a sort of way of addressing the things that happened after the birth of Christ, because everything that happened before the birth of Christ is in a certain way, in a derogative way, understood as pagan, not part of Christian civilization. And everything or things that are not part of Christian civilization is not that too acceptable for the Western mind. Now, this was sorted out in the United States of America by neutralizing it and adding a capital E to avoid the Christian connotation, because you can bring into the fold of the calendar almost all the religions. BCE is not to be expanded as before the Christian era, though people use it before the Christian era. It can be expanded in a secular way as before the common era. So now BC on very many occasions is substituted with BCE, before the common era, and it originated in the United States of America in the 1960s. But still, it can be read before the Christian era. But whatever it is, whether it is BC or BCE, generally going by the old conventional rule, capital B, capital C, or capital B, capital C, and capital E are placed after the date, or after the year, after the numeric year, 50 BC or 40 BC, not BC 50, not BC 40. The correct or the more accepted form is 50 BC or 40 BC. Now, there could be arguments that sometimes in certain books of history or in certain documents it is seen BC 50 or BC 40. We needn't actually get into any kind of argument, because as ages pass by, language becomes a property of the people. The people do use it, and the more you use it, the better would be, or the wider would be the acceptability. So go in terms of acceptability and not in terms of the prescriptive rules, because the prescriptive rules get sometimes or very often blurred, and the prescriptive rules remain only in the background. In the end, everything matters the way you use a particular item of language. Now back home with BC and AD, in the third module of the fourth edition of Better Your English. In the second module, I was telling you about the use of BC and BCE. Now, AD, capital A, capital D. In between, there is a full stop, but there needn't necessarily be a full stop in between BC and AD. You can use, or even when you write, you can use it without a full stop. Nobody is going to penalize you. Now, AD actually is a Latin abbreviation which means Anno Domini, which means in the year of the Lord. I told you in the previous module that the Christian era, after the birth of Christ, everything is considered as in the year, presumed as in the year of the Lord in the Western calendar. Of course, every community or every culture has its own way of calculating or dividing the period of time. We have the Malayalam calendar and many things like so. That's why when you ask people to show or to inform their birthday, they say that the birthday falls on such and such date, but the date may not be as per the Western calendar. It could be as per the local calendar or the Malayalam month, which keeps on fluctuating, changing every year. Now forget all that. See, in the Christian calendar, all years after the birth of Christ are presumed as being part of the year of the Lord, or the period of the Lord. And AD, interestingly enough, should not be written like BC. AD should be written before the numerical unit, before the date or before the year. It is not 405 AD, it is AD 405 or AD 510, like that. But BC has to be written after the number. It should be 55 BC or 62 BC. Here again, there is no kind of compulsion again. You are not going to be penalized if you change the order again. If somebody argues in a very pinpointed way that this is erroneous, you can never ever claim, the person can never ever claim that this is the final authority. Because the Cambridge International, if one dictionary approves of one system, there would be 4 or 5 other dictionaries that approve of other systems of writing and expression. The Cambridge International Dictionary of 1995 actually approves of both kinds of placement. You can write your AD or BC before the numerical date or after the numerical date. So similarly, in the next unit, we will think of something like this, that is AM and PM, because the units of time are indicated by these two signifying terms, AM and PM. Let us wait until the next edition is released to understand how AM and PM work. So thank you everyone for your patient listening.